Yeah, so the second question is the government to blame for the lack of discipline in the younger generation? So we're talking about
Oh.
introduction of policies where they say you can't hit your kids. Basically, don't beat your kids. But then at the same time, kids are now running around doing all kinds of foolishness. Like back when I was growing up, my mum used to beat the living hell out of me when I was growing up, and it didn't do any harm to me being disciplined. I mean, it kept me on the right track. I mean, if my mum didn't discipline me, I probably would have gone off and done all kinds of craziness. But
Badness.
yeah, and then like obviously the government introducing things where social services where kids can call social services on their parents. But if you as a parent is disciplining your child and your child's like, oh fine, I'm gonna call social services, and then all of a sudden social services get involved and no, you can't do that, you can't do that, kind of
So
thing.
who agrees with the government, sorry, being able to intervene in how a parent chooses to discipline their child? Do you agree or nay or nay?
I think rules like that were introduced to prevent cases like what's the child's name, like Victoria Kilimbile, like the child that was killed, is to prevent cases like that. But at the same time, the problem with rules is that people are individuals. So just because of one case, a blanket rule can't be applied to everyone, because that's not necessarily the case with everyone. So I agree with it to an extent, but to say that you can't hit your children, like you will go to jail and things like that, I think it's a bit too extreme. But because I guess if your child is stealing a sweet in a shop and you slap your child's hand, as a parent, you're not wrong, because your intention was not to harm the child, but to teach them that stealing's wrong. So I don't know. I kind of
I
mixed
mean, I guess
feelings.
there's probably a very fine line between disciplining your child and child abuse. But when you're straddling that line, you've got the government who are trying to straddle this line. And I mean, my personal opinion is basically they've gone a bit too far, because now you're getting people running around, like especially the younger generation, are now running around pretty much doing whatever they want. And then the same people who are saying don't smack your kids are the same people who are saying, oh, it starts from the home, you don't raise your child right, and now your kid is out there stabbing people and robbing old ladies and stuff. But at the same time, you're saying don't smack your child. So
I think the issue's bigger than that, though. It's not. I think there's so many contributing factors to how a child turns out. It's not just about whether you hit them at home or not. I think like there's so many contributing factors. So I wouldn't say the government is completely to blame, but I think they've given small children who haven't yet developed yet too much control and power and freedom over what they do. And I guess people, like, they should be free to do what they want, but the whole point of bringing up a child is so that you bring them to the point where they're developed enough to make decisions by themselves. So giving them such power and freedom at a young age was a bit stupid. So
Anyone else want to add anything? I know you want to talk. I can see you.
go on, just put her on the spot and just give her
No,
the
do you want to
microphone.
say
And
something?
just,
No, I do think the government's to blame in bigger ways as well, as in social media as well. Or okay, even a better topic, school. The kind of thing they want to introduce to the curriculum for the kids, like teaching them sex ed at 5 and they can't even read. And certain parents are against that, but they have no choice. Like they have no choice in the curriculum. I think a 5-year-old's a bit too young to learn stuff like that. So, like, there's a couple cases where you have like 9-year-olds like raping their brother, sister, little things like that. But then you're giving them too much information. Those are things they can learn in like secondary school and stuff, not so young. So, as well as stopping parents from disciplining, they're also giving them the tools to that can kind of mislead them. You know what I mean? So, that's my opinion on that.
yeah, that's fine. It's all
Thank you
it's
very
all about
much.
people's
Thank you very much.
opinions.
No, I think it's a man. Like I have, I'm the oldest of 5, so I have 3 brothers in the middle and then my sister at the bottom. And obviously, being the oldest, the 2 eldest, sorry, my brother and I got a certain level of discipline that my now younger siblings haven't, and it was like when we were that age, you can get away with that.
Yeah,
Like,
it's not fair.
it's
like,
not
it's
fair.
not fair.
Like, if we were to do the things my little brother was kicking up with, we would got kicked down some stairs. Like, but yes, I do think it's a level that parents, at the end of the day, regardless of what's going on outside in the world, are responsible for their children. They're your children. That can never change. And regardless that, in extreme cases, you could go, get fined, go to prison, whatever. At the end of the day, your child is your child, and you should be able to defend how you want to treat your child to the end. Do you know what I mean? What you said about fine line between discipline and abuse. I don't think the line's that fine, in the sense that discipline is discipline. Okay, you did that, it's wrong, you got in trouble. And abuse is like picking up weapons for your kids, drowning your kids, kicking them down. Like the video of the mum hitting the baby on the bed, and little things like that, and she continues to cry. That's clearly abuse. But then when it comes to government officials and stuff, I feel like because they want to show that they're cracking down on the problem, they get overzealous and like you said, paint everyone with the same brush type thing. So it's just like, oh, we failed this family, so now any family who reports something, we're just going to jump on it, and everyone's going to prison. It's just like, no, you need to judge each case as it comes along.
They need to be
you can't
more
just
subjective.
judge everyone. That's the
in,
word.
in the case, yeah.
Subjective.
Which I do agree with that, because you do get like some cases where a parent is trying to do their best for their child, like they may be working 3 or 4 jobs, and in some shape the child gets left at home by herself,
By
and like
herself,
a
yeah. And then
9-year-old
someone
child
runs
looking
in,
after
yeah.
a 4-year-old child, and then all of a sudden social services are jumping in and we're taking your kids away. But the mum is working hard, she's trying to do everything the best she can for her child, but it's kind of a lose-lose situation. Is if you don't work, you can't support your family, but if you do work, you got no one to look after your child. So you do get situations like that where the government are being a bit overzealous, as you said, and not treating the cases subjectively.
There's too many catch-22s. Like, obviously we had the initial question, but it goes on into all these other things, because like you said, you've got a really hard-working mom who might not be around her kids because she's working so hard, but then if she stops working to be at home with the children and then claims all the benefits under the sun, then she becomes that whole statistic that everybody's complaining about. Oh, you're just at home claiming benefits, go out and find a job. But then the jobs I'm finding, I'm not getting childcare and I'm not getting this kind of money. It's just like you said,
childcare is not cheap.
Childcare's not cheap.
It's not cheap at all.
Childcare's not cheap. My sister's coming up to be 3, and putting her into nursery and new schools and stuff. Like, my mum's looking at me now to be like, yeah, we need to do this together kind of thing. I was like, dude, I love my sister, but is she my baby though? Like, do you know what I mean? But it's expensive. It's so expensive. And it's just, you go around in this constant circle because you're not able to adhere to all these different rules, and they're trying, like, basically it's like being a rat in a maze thing. What's that thing? Like
rat race.
Yeah, that's it. Like those lab things. That's what it feels like. But yeah.
Anyone else wanna jump in?
It kind of reminds me of the thing they put in about truancy, where you get a fine. So if a child is bunking off school, maybe there's something underlying like bullying. So instead of putting a fine, maybe sort out the problem, why the child isn't going to school.
Yeah, I remember that they introduced that a few years ago, where they're now fining parents if your child doesn't show up to school.
Yeah, they're doing that now.
Or if he comes late into school. But
what I wanted sorry, go.
when we was in secondary school, it became like a national thing where you would skip a day off school and like just run off, and your parents never knew. They never ever knew. You get dressed and wake up in the morning as normal, put your clothes on and as normal, and I know you're laughing because you've done it as well. We've all done it. Like, you get dressed as normal, you kind of leave your house like, yeah, bye mum, I'm going to school, and and then you kind of wait around the corner till she goes to work, and you're back in your house again, and you're like, oh, I'm not going to school, and then, or you're going out with your friends and whatever. But your mum doesn't have any idea that you're not in school. I mean, you're now of age, you're 13, 14, 15, you're now pretty much more or less responsible for your own actions, and so you're just disappearing off, and your mum's gone to work. You make sure you're back home on time as you normally would do if you was actually at school.
Yeah.
And then your mum comes in and none the wiser until 2-3 weeks later she gets a letter in the post. Oh, you're being fined because your child skipped school.
But then again, if you got home before your mum, you open them letters.
And then you open the letters and you get rid of the letters. So
Did you ever do
it's
the the kettle thing, so you steamed it open so it wouldn't rip, and then you got it out. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, I've done that, and then you kind of seal it back if you need to.
Yeah, and then seal it back if it was a good letter.
Yeah.
But no, but no. What I wanted to point out, obviously, the point you made saying, oh, if a child's late, see if there's a problem behind it. Personally, it's like I wouldn't say it's a disagreement, but just hear me out. It's like you're implying that every time a child does something bad, there's this deep emotional reason as to why they did it, when sometimes kids are just bad. Like, not even bad, but like you said, we just didn't go to school. Like, there's no problems at home. There's no, I'm running off to go smoke some weed. I just didn't want to get out of bed today. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, I feel that's part of the government issue, because they try to find reasons as to why kids are doing these things.
I know,
it's just like, no, they're just being children.
Just being
like,
kids, yeah.
they're just being kids.
We've all done it. We've all
done it. It's like, you know what the biggest thing is? No offense to anyone who knows someone who has this or diagnosed or whatever. ADHD, yeah, I think is the wicked enabling, what's it called? Like an enabling tool. Like, I get that kids are hyper, but I feel like they make up things to say, oh, this is why your child's bad. Like, no, he's just fully hyper right now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he has to take pills. And then the kid knows that they've been diagnosed with this. They'll be like, I'm gonna act out, I'm gonna punch you in the face, but I gotta take my meds or something. Do you know what I mean? And kids are able to take the piss. Because people make it okay for them to be bad. It's like, oh, they're depressed, or oh, they've got ADHD.
We have to let them off.
No, they're bad, and they need to kick down some steps. But no, I just think there's so much stuff to enable kids to, like you said, the government gives them power. So it's like, oh, don't hit me, I'm gonna call Childline, or I've got problems, I've got not dyslexia, but I've got this,
even
I've
with
got
the
that.
whole Childline thing, I mean, back when we was growing up, well, my generation was growing up, and you tried to threaten your mum and say, oh yeah, I'm going to go call social services. Your mum will pick up the phone and go, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
And you will never ever do it. You will never ever do it. You will never. I think one of the biggest threats you ever had as a child growing up was when your mum used to tell you, I'm going to send you to boarding school. That was the biggest threat ever. And as soon as you heard the word boarding school, you were like, oh, I'll be good, you know. Like, no child ever wanted to go boarding school.
Like, I had to run away so many times. I'm going to run away. My mum was like, go on then.
And you just
like,
never,
see how long you last,
done it. Just don't do it. You never done it. I mean, we had that kind of discipline from young. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we do act up, we do bad things, you get caught, you get disciplined, you move on, and you learn from it. But obviously, the kids nowadays are not having that. They don't have that discipline.
You know,
that
I
we
think
used to
the
have.
common denominator, I think, is the word. What you're saying right now is fear. As in, if you said to your parent, "I'm gonna call Charli," and said, "Go on," then, like, you didn't, because you was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, kids don't have fear anymore. Do you know what I mean? They're not afraid of their parents. They're not afraid of the police. They're not afraid of their teachers. They're not afraid of anyone. I think we were fully scared when we were younger. Like, we had the fear of God, like, in us, so that we didn't do certain things because you might not have known the outcome, but just the thought of what could happen stopped you from doing it. Whereas now, kids will do what they like. You'll be like, hit me then, I'll fight you back, or, you know, kids don't have fear no more.
And
they're not afraid.
You see videos on Facebook of like kids beating up their mums and like slapping their mums in the face and swearing at their mums.
Different.
And it's just like,
we should talk about that.
Yeah,
Has anybody seen that video? Has everybody seen that video?
Which one's that? Oh, the one with the little boy slapping his mum.
Yeah. Have you seen it? Well, quick story. There's a little boy. There's a woman. She's out of her head. I don't know what she's out of her head on, whether it's weed, drugs, coke, or whatever. And she's sitting down, just all dazed out of her mind. And the little boy, her son, boxes her in the face, like the wickedest box you've ever heard in your life. And he's like, "Mommy, like, talk to me, mommy," and slaps her in the face. And some woman just says something like, "Oh, don't slap your mother like that," or whatever. But it got a whole load of reactions because everyone was just like, "Oh, he needs to get slapped, because how do you slap your mum like that?" Dude, his mum's clearly on some drugs, and this little kid
she was out of her face.
It. And it was just my personal thing. You have to see it, Google it after you leave or whatever. But my personal thing was that, okay, he hit her, which was like, okay, wow. But you have to hear how he says what he's saying. The pain that is coming out of this little boy's mouth because she won't respond to him. There's such a deeper pain. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't about the hitting anymore. It was about why he was hitting her. It's just like he needed her and she just wasn't there. And loads of people was just like, oh, he should still have manners. Manners for a crackhead? No. Like, do you get what I mean?
No. I mean, the video was pretty. When I first heard about the video, I just assumed it was a kid just beating up his mum.
Yeah.
For whatever reason why he's beating her up, but he's beating up his mum. You see other videos of kids swearing at their mums and all that kind of foolishness. But when I actually watched it and you actually see the mum, her eyes are glazed over. I mean, he's fully swung and hit the woman in her face, and her head's rocked back, and she's kind of just like that, and her eyes are just rolling around. So she was clearly like off her head.
You saw that the little boy had enough, basically. And how old does he look? About 7, 8?
Probably about 7, 8.
Yeah, probably about 7, 8. And to see his reaction to his mum like this, it was really heartbreaking, and everyone was more on to him, and it's just like, oh, he needs discipline. It's like, well, he's clearly not getting it because his mum's on drugs. Like, you need to understand where his pain is coming from, and I think that goes back to what this lady said here about finding the problems as to why children are doing these things. And sometimes it is a genuine heartbreak and there is genuine madness going on at home, but at other times kids are just bad. Kids are just bad.
So anyone else, anything else to add? I think we kind of swayed off the question.
Yeah, we did, but it was interesting.
So no one else has anything they want to add to that?
Cool.
I kind of want to not defend the government, but I don't think it's as clear cut as you think it is, because I've worked on the other side of things, because I've trained to be a teacher, so I've worked in schools and worked with social care and worked with child protection officers, and it's not a straight thing where your child has missed school so you're getting fined. I guess there's loads of sort of markers that you need to hit before they actually intervene, and sometimes it takes too long for social care to intervene before something gets to a certain level. So I think kind of links back to the whole media thing. It's just how it's been portrayed, as though like it's I don't know, it's been misconstrued. I think you think it's like so quick that a child acts up, social care jumps in. I don't think it's like that. So
I mean, they do have. I mean, I guess it's kind of a situation where damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if social media, if social workers do jump in too quickly, it's like, oh, but but then again, if they take too long, then something serious could actually happen. You had the whole baby pee scandal thing a few years ago, which was actually really, really bad. But the whole point, going back to the actual question, which was, is the government to blame for the lack of discipline? It's when you look at the younger generations now and the blatant disrespect that they have for the older generations, and especially for people in authority as well. But can you link that back to obviously the government policy on how you can discipline your child? Is this the reason why these kids are like that? I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, when most of you was growing up as well, we always had this thing of respect your elders, and which I carry that to this day. Anybody who I see of the old generation to me, whether I know you or not, you automatically will gain that level of respect from me, until obviously you do certain things, then either you win, gain or lose or other that. But anyone from an old generation to me will automatically have that respect, not because they're a respectable person, but because I've been told from young, and it's been instilled in me since young, respect your elders. The generation that's coming through now, they don't have that at all. I mean, you see things in videos on the media. Oh, this kid done this to this old lady, or beat up this old lady, or stabbed this old lady, or all kind of foolishness that's been going on. And the question is can you link that back to the government intervening in the household?
But do you think it's a direct link though? Because at the same time, my brothers and sisters, they were younger than me, they were brought up in this generation, and they still have respect for the elders. So I guess it comes down to being individuals, because my mum still, with all these things in place, with the government saying all these things, my mum was still able to raise like proper children. So I guess it's not just the government to blame. I think they do contribute, but I don't think you could put the blame on them. I think parents hold a lot of the
But would
blame.
you say that it's how the parents interpret what the government are saying and what they will do, and then using that into how they raise their kids?
I guess, but it's subjective though, isn't it?
Because I know when I'm raising my daughter as well, I'm instilling the same things in her which my mum installed in me. So she does have a certain level of respect for her elders, and I taught her that. Do you see where I'm coming from with that? But then some parents are not teaching their kids that, or they're not disciplining their kids. I mean, like I said, we used to get beats all the time. I used to call it like whatever's in your mum's reach. When you done something wrong, you was getting hit with. So curtain wires, wooden spoons, shoes. I mean, there's a story of what my friend told me. He actually got beat with his bike chain. His mum actually pulled the bike chain off and beat him with the bike chain. So
Can't tell certain people that now, you know, get sent prison.
yeah, exactly, but he's now a big 30-year-old man, and he's never like reacted in a negative way to it. He is what he is. So it's part of what he is.
Yeah, I think one of the other issues is that we're trying to protect our children from the consequences of their actions, and when we protect them from all consequences, they don't learn. They never learn, because it's like, well, there's no consequence to me hitting my mum or hitting this person or hitting that person. But what will happen is that they may hit their mum, they may hit their dad, they may do whatever, but they know they can't walk down the street and slap a stranger, because that stranger will slap them. And this is something that, you know, you see in how they portray themselves. But because they know that parents, police officers, they have to restrain themselves, and they can only go so far, they push it further than they're allowed to go. So I think that, you know, government is partly to blame, because government removed people's right to be able to discipline their children, and you might as well just put handcuffs on parents, and that's one problem. Then when they're also trying to save the children from the consequence, what are they going to learn? You know, I used to say to my daughter when she was young, if you run around, you're going to drop. She drops, she comes running to me, and I'm like, well, I told you. You shouldn't do it, that's it. And she learns that, and that's what it comes down to. We can't save them from the consequences, because if consequences only kick in when they're 18, that's too late.
Way too late.
Way too late.
Yeah.
Way too late. You can't teach them nothing by that time, because somebody else has taught them something totally different, and they're not in the family. You know, they're not related. It's somebody who they now regard as more family than blood family, and we know those people aren't looking out for them.
I think Shalisa at the back.
Yeah, I'm going, thank you.
It's like you're saying that children shouldn't have rights in a way, and I think that's wrong, because there's situations where people, like parents, are abusing the fact that they could discipline their children back in the day when everyone was growing up, and that's why those laws had to come in. And it's not because they're trying to tell parents, you should never ever discipline your child, but some people were taking it too far, and they were taking advantage of that fact. And in fact, a lot of people, when they're growing up, they don't realize that their parents were abusing them because that was the norm to them. And so, like, you've got people growing up thinking, yeah, this is meant to happen. I'm meant to get beaten and bruised and battered, when that's not meant to happen. So the government had to do what they had to do to protect children, because there's children out there who are unprotected, and they didn't want to speak up. And once people started speaking up, then they were able to solve the problem. I mean, like, I work in a school with autistic people and people with social and emotional behavioural issues. So I see every day that there's children out there that are scared, because even though the law's there, it's still happening. So, I mean, no matter what the governments do, it's still going to happen. So you can't entirely blame the government.
Sorry, before we go to... Sorry, I keep forgetting. Zoe.
Yeah.
Zoe. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, we keep going back to the beginning, but there is a line between discipline and abuse. And for the government to put in place things to, as you said, protect children, 100% down for that. Nobody wants kids being battered and bruised and broken ribs and that kind of stuff. But, you know, we joke about it, you know, in our, you know, our different families. It's like growing up, it's like a rite of passage to get couple beaten stories. Oh my gosh, my mom beat me that one time, and da-da-da-da-da. And then it's just one of those things that happen. But, you know, I don't think I've ever sat and later on in later life and thought that when I got beat with a wooden spoon or something, that was abuse. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd done something wrong or whatever, and that was that, and life moves on. So I understand, like, your position, like you said, working with autistic children, and there are children that are vulnerable to people who will abuse them and be cruel to them for no reason. So yes, the government stepping in to help those children is perfectly 100% fine. It's when the government then, as we said earlier on, taint all discipline as abuse and take the right away from parents to slap their child in the shop. Oh no, but you slapped me, so now it's abuse. I've got a bruise. Okay, well maybe you just bruise easily. It was a little bit of a slap, like calm down. Do you know what I mean? So it's taken away the right of parents under the guise of protecting vulnerable children, when that's what it's for, but that's not what it's always used for, I don't believe. Yes, sorry. Yeah. Zoe?
Like, it seems like some people think that the only way of disciplining a child is by hitting them, whereas in my opinion it's not. So like, even if maybe you're not allowed to do that anymore, you're not allowed to hit them as hard as you were, like, you just have to invent other ways. Because my dad never hit any of, like, my mum hit us with a wooden spoon and she drew a smiley face on it and called it her wooden friend, but but my dad never hit us. And obviously, I mean, I am closer to my mum, but the other three, like, kind of, there's 4 of us, the other 3 kind of get on better with my dad and like respond better to his like instructions and stuff. So obviously for our family, like, discipline in other ways like worked. And I don't know, they would like take stuff, they would like, my mum also would take away screen time, as in like we couldn't watch TV or go on a computer, and they would take away our stuff, make us sit in a chair for like 2 hours. I don't know, there's other ways. Maybe you guys think it's silly, but
No, I mean, yeah, I agree. There are other ways of disciplining your child, short of beating the crap out of them. But you do get to the point where sometimes the only way your child is going to learn is through pain. So, I mean, it does sound bad. It does sound really bad. But let me explain. Like, so say for instance, if when you tell your child, don't touch the stove is hot, and they touch the stove and they burn their hand, they learn through pain. They now know that if they touch that stove again, they're going to be really hurt. It's going to hurt. So I think that kind of thing, we kind of bring that into the discipline, into the whole discipline thing. If you catch your child stealing from the shop, you give them a smack on the hand, so they know. Catch your child stealing from the shop, they're going to remember that pain that they felt, and if they do it again, it's going to be worse. But I think a lot of children as well, especially. I mean, I don't really want to compare them to animals, but it kind of does. It's by learning through that whole discipline thing, you tend to learn a lot quicker, and you do tend to learn like a lot. I mean, I said when I was growing up, I used to get beats all the time. I was a bad child. I was a very, very bad child, and I used to get beat all the time. But then I don't really think you can get immune to them.
I think you can get like what I said, there's other ways to discipline a child. Like, we focused on beating because obviously beating is physical and people can class that as abuse and but of course there are other ways to discipline your child. But with my sister, when she does something bad, I don't immediately hit her. That's like, you know, going all, not agree with beating your kids, but yeah, if I have children, I'll probably slap them. But it shouldn't be the first resort, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you can't have that, put it down, put it away. Okay, I've told you 4 times now you're getting a slap. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't always be the first thing you do, because if you constantly hit someone all the time, it's like, all right, she's just gonna slap me, like, who cares now? Do you know what I mean? If you get slapped often enough, slaps don't mean nothing. Like, you just get hardened to it. And then if it's like a little boy, do you know what I mean? One day you're gonna be taller than your mum, and it's like, you can't hit me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, my brothers are like that now. My mum can't slap them. They're like 10 feet tall. Like, you can't do that anymore. But sorry, did you still want to?
I think the problem with like all rules is that it's, like I said before, like a blanket rule, whereas kids are individuals. So some children may I didn't get hit as a child, but my brother that's underneath me, he took slaps for everybody but that's what he responded to, whereas I didn't respond to that. So, and I agree with you, there are other ways to discipline your child, but it's the intention. I guess if my mum hit me, her intention was never to, that's the difference between abuse and discipline, is the intention. Because if your intention is to teach your child that that's not the way, then it's not abuse. It's not abuse. But if your intention is to hurt your child, then clearly that is abuse. So I don't know. I guess rules are there for a reason, but rules will always not take on individual cases, because you can't do that. It would be too much. You cannot take every single different case into court and review it separately. If you go at me, that would just take too much time. So they have to apply general rules, just as sort of a precaution, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
Cool. Does anyone
Everyone-
else want to say anything?
Anything else to add? No. All right. So we're going to take a quick short break before we move on to the last topic of the day. So we should be back in about 15 minutes.
No, don't need that long. Don't need that long.
Yeah. We're back in about 15 minutes. All right.